This is episode 121, and I'm your host, Latoya, and this is Equip the Next, where you get equipped to lead, disciple, and move the mission forward. Need a little faith boost? You don't want to miss this. Well, welcome, you guys. Welcome. If you are new, thank you so much for joining me. If you are returning, thank you so much. Hopefully, you guys got a chance to get those Bible study guardrails. They're completely free. The link is somewhere, either in the show notes or in the description, depending on where you're listening. Don't forget to share this episode if it's blessed you at the end. I say this stuff in the beginning because I usually forget to say it at the end, and I'm like, okay, I do need to say something, right? So I would love for you guys to join the community just by signing the newsletter or whatever, just to say hi. And feel free to email us at hello@equipthenext.com if you have any questions or anything like that. So today we are going to be using a case study. We're talking about why faith was never meant to be passive. And I think it's important because we need to really understand that obedience sometimes doesn't come with clarity. It just, God will give you the directive, but he's not going to give you everything. And we can definitely see that when we look at Abraham. So I'm going to just use him as a case study. I'm not going to read the whole thing. We were talking about this in our EFP group as we are reading the Bible chronologically, but I did want to share just a piece of this, and it's Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. It says, "Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you." I'm going to stop there because this is not the first thing that God commanded him to, or asked him to do, told him to do rather. And it seemed like each thing was a little bit more intense. But Abraham obeyed. He obeyed. And that's very telling because we understand and we can hear throughout Scripture, from Genesis to Revelation, people who have obeyed the call or whatever God told them, and they weren't perfect. As a matter of fact, sometimes they would obey, but then they would try to take matters into their own hands. We see this man, Abraham, who wasn't anybody special. He didn't do anything special. He didn't have any special works or anything like that. And God chose him. And he was just obedient. And God speaks to us and gives us information just enough, because if we knew, like if you continue reading this, when God tells him to go into the land, right? What happens? Then there's a famine. The next chapter, well, not even the next chapter, then a couple verses down, we go to chapter 12, verse 10, and it says, "Now there was a famine in the land. So Abram went down to Egypt." So it's funny because, it's not funny, but my teacher said this. I took a note and I want to put it down. It says, just because roadblocks come along the way during or doing what God has promised you, doesn't mean it's not what he promised. God told Abram to go to the land he had promised him. And then when he got there, there was a famine in the land shortly after that. But that didn't mean he wouldn't be back. That's very important. So when the Lord is telling you to do something and you obey, it doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect. It's really saddening to me because there's a lot of people that are still on this prosperity kick, and they equate people based on what they have. And it's like, everybody's supposed to have a Rolls Royce or Bentley. And I'm not saying, listen, if you put the work in, that's fine, but that's not for everybody. And you have a lot of ministries that mix that in. And some people might feel like their day hasn't come because they're comparing themselves to somebody else. Do what God has told you to do and stay in your sphere, what he's told you to do, because he has a plan for everything, for all of us. Abraham, we see here, Abraham responds before knowing the outcome. Even when he was told to sacrifice his son, only son. No questions, because he trusted. We know God wasn't going to do that for real, okay? Because he was completely against that. That's what pagans did, but it was a test. But the bottom line is that Abraham responded even before he knew the outcome. And we see throughout this that the text even highlights movement, but doesn't highlight certainty. It's not, listen, he had to, not only did he go, let me go back, let me get my Bible, because I got some notes. Not only did he go, but he had to bring his family with him too. Let me see. Yeah, he had to bring his family with him. Never knowing. And let me just give you this. I'll share this little quick nugget really quickly. So as we see, when the fall happened, Adam and Eve moved eastward. Yeah, eastward. Let me go back. Okay, I got to get my Bible again. Because context. Okay, let me see. Let me go. Give me a second. Sorry. They moved east. But I want to find it in the Bible really quickly. Here we are. Okay. So you can go to Genesis chapter 3, verse 24. When he drove out the man, and at the east of the Garden of Eden, they placed the cherubim. So, of course, they moved east. So I read a really good commentary when I was doing some study on how, like when they sinned, they would move. It was just, they moved east when they traveled. And it was almost like they were moving further and further away from God. They just kept moving east. We see this again, like even when we go into Tower of Babel, you see them moving east. But here we see Abram being told to go west. This is why it's good to have like an atlas or know a little geography when you're reading the Bible. I wish I can explain the map to you where Abram was and then where he was asked to go. But he was asked to go west. He was asked to go to Canaan. And so in that was already a test in faith. That's like if you live in a very warm place and that's the only place that you know that you're going to be living. Like you are not moving anywhere else. This is your home. And then God tells you to move somewhere like Alaska or the North Pole or something. Like, what? Wait, what? Because it's opposite from what you were used to going. So you see him still using his faith even in that. That's very eye-opening, and I hope that this blesses whoever's listening, is that sometimes the things may not make any sense, but God will instruct you throughout the way. He's not going to tell you to do something and then leave you hanging. He's going to give you the steps and the tools and the resources to make it happen. And guess what? Don't be discouraged if you feel like you're in a quote unquote famine. Don't be discouraged if you were like, I'm listening to you, Lord. I'm obeying you. You've gotten confirmation in your spirit, like you know that you're doing the right thing, and then boof, you hit a wall. And you're questioning, did I make the right decision? Am I supposed to do this? What's going on? We don't know like what Abram was thinking during this. We only can know this is not going to be exhaustive. Genesis is history. It's mainly historical narrative. It's not going to give you exhaustive, but so we don't know. He probably was thinking in his head like, "Oh my gosh, am I doing the right thing?" Who knows? I don't know. But he trusted the Lord. And from the looks of it, sounds like he trusted the Lord in his heart. Like he just did it. He just trusted him. And even in the midst of a famine, even when he lied a little bit, saying his wife was his sister, we know. But he still trusted the process. But was he perfect? No, he was flawed. He trusted the promise, but he put the promise also into his own hands and then formed Ishmael, right? We know about that. So he did make mistakes. And sometimes even us, we'll put matters into our own hands, either because we're impatient or because we think we're going to help God, quote unquote, help God along. Okay, let me help him. He gave me this, or he told me to do this. Now I'll help him when he doesn't need our help, when all we need to do is be patient and wait. That's hard. That's hard for all of us. That's hard for me sometimes. I'm like, what? And sometimes you can question and you can feel like confused. And maybe you feel, because God is not the author of confusion, but the enemy will come in and he will confuse you and make you think that you are doing the wrong thing. But if you trust in the Lord and you know what he said, stand on that. Stand on that. Stand on that and apply it. And if you get it wrong, okay, get back up again. Take those cues. Remember, I'm going to give you this assignment, little homework. If there's a time where, like, write down, I tell people this a lot, write down a time or the times when God has told you something and it was right. You're like, man, I heard from God. Write all of those times down. Number one, it'll encourage you. But number two, it will remind you of what that was like. Not for the experience or the high, but so that you're aware of his voice. Because with distractions and social media and all that kind of stuff, sometimes we can forget. So if you're reminded, okay, when my spirit's telling me, okay, I know this is God because, I got the proof right here. This is how he talks to me, or when he talks to me at these particular times, or whatever. But just write down those times when God has spoken, or the Holy Spirit has nudged you to do stuff and told you to do something, or you felt led to do this here, or maybe you just felt this pull here and it was right. That'll encourage you. I got a question that you can ask yourself, and that is, where might God be inviting obedience before providing full understanding? Ask yourself that. Where might God be inviting obedience before providing full understanding? And if you're unclear about even the first step of like where to obey, like what do you want me to do, Father? You can ask, Father, I don't understand. Could you give me a little information or clarity on what I need to do? Because I don't have you don't need the full picture. But if he's telling you, I'm just using this as an example. If he's telling you to move, okay, Father, I feel like you're telling me to move. Could you tell me like where? Or he's not going to tell you everything, but he might tell you to move to this state or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Or move to this country, whatever. But trust the process. Look at the Christ thread. We see Christ. He was promised. We trust. Hopefully you trust, and we can see the outcome. He died for us. He allowed us the opportunity to fellowship with him, to commune with him. And so just stand on that and trust that. Okay. So we got to have a challenge, and I want you to just take one quiet step of obedience this week. Just hear that nudge. Trust him. Follow him, not man. Love you. Talk to you soon.